Day-to-day life in America has certainly become easier from a convenience standpoint, but it's come at the cost of the health of tens of millions of Americans along the way, not to mention many of them dying. You know, what Trump 2.0 is making more and more clear is that the communist deep state for decades now has introduced what we could call a kind of a trading away of many good things. The trade, if you want to call it that, has been between convenience being traded out for demolition of things that are good. Take physical health, for example. There's barely a single item you can point to which doesn't prove the point in this world of trading away our health for convenience. Food preservatives, plastic containers, the food pyramid, remember that stupid thing? Farm-raised, vaccines, bottled water, microwaves, indoor lighting, FDA recommendations, Teflon, hormone injections, TV dinners, food coloring. The list goes on and on and on. Day-to-day life in America has certainly become easier from a convenience standpoint, but it's come at the cost of the health of tens of millions of Americans along the way, not to mention many of them dying. Increased cancers, childhood injuries, sky-high autism, chronic diseases. The list also just goes on and on. Switching over to trade, for example, Americans have accepted cheap foreign-made crap in exchange for U.S. manufacturing jobs and the destruction of the middle class, not to mention a trade imbalance in the hundreds of billions every single year. You know, it doesn't really matter what area of U.S. life you look at, health, trade, economy, leisure, all of it. Trading away natural goods that are good, we mean virtuous goods, for convenience, that's been the hallmark of the subversives in D.C. But the same has happened not just in the material world, but it's also happened in the spiritual world. Truth has been traded away for diversity of opinion and avoidance of conflict, as surely as sunlight has been traded away for indoor fluorescent overheads, or personal face-to-face interaction traded away for impersonal interaction with a screen. And the spiritual order, where truth has been lost, is manifest in not just theological circles, dominant of course, but also the media, the courts, the classrooms. These areas center on morality, which is spiritual by its nature, and they've been traded away for an anti-Christ agenda, where courts can rule, for example, that a baby in the womb doesn't have a right to life, where media can simply lie every day, daily, years on end about the efficacy of a supposed vaccine, which it's not a vaccine, as well as the mental health of a sitting president. And of course, classrooms, where students' minds are poisoned with lies about sex and God. So the question arises, how? Why? How did this all be allowed to happen? How did it all come about? Well, because convenience. It's easier to let your child be poisoned physically as well as intellectually and, of course, spiritually, and easier for all of that to just sort of be ignored and just treat, oh, well, I'm just going about my day-to-day life. It's easier to do that than to challenge the prevailing ethos. It's easier, meaning more convenient. That's what we mean by easier, to ignore the plight of American workers than to just give up buying cheap crap at Walmart. It's easier to just ignore a false religion grabbing a creeping foothold in the U.S. than to stand up and denounce it and, of course, have all that opprobrium heaped on you about being, judgmental and blah, blah, blah. People are inherently lazy. It's a very sad fact of the fall. We will always look for the easiest path, or at least what we think is the easiest path. And the problem is that for the short term, it probably is the easiest path. But the easy path ultimately leads to destruction. Our Lord even said that. The shortcut, the quick fix, cutting corners, ignoring details, being, lazy, all of that eventually blows up, and the person or people either end up destroying themselves, or they have to face the reality that they must do, I guess you call it like an about face. Like they're going down the wrong way. They have to first stop, turn around, and then walk back and begin to accept the hard realities of life. What we now see unfolding around us in America is a great reckoning with the trade-off we've all engaged in here for the past half century or more. No wonder Trump is despised by the commies. He's like holding up that mirror to the country, and the commies don't like people seeing what they've caused. Coming to you from Houston, Texas, I'm Gary Michael Voris. God love you.